there's a lot to say about pageantry, but I think it can do a lot of good. However, and still, there are a lot of predatory people who see a woman with a dream and a vision, similarly to the modeling industry, similarly to the music industry. Anything where you have people who are hoping and dreaming of a bigger future for themselves, you're going to have people surrounding it that want to either tear that down, stop that from happening, or prey upon you.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of What It's Really Like with me, your host, Molly Burke. And today, I have a very exciting guest, the one, the only, the icon, the queen, Miss Cammy Crawford.
Hello.
Ooh.
I'm so honored to be here with you.
Well, I'm excited that you're returning the favor. I was on your podcast a couple years back.
Yes. And it was amazing. We had such a good time.
We had such a good chat. So, let's recreate the moment and do it all again, 3 years later.
I love it.
And play catch up because a lot's happened.
A lot has happened for both of us.
Yes. I feel like a good place to start is for those who do not know. Who is Cammy Crawford?
Well, other than that girl, just in general, I feel like I've worn a lot of hats in my life, and sometimes I forget them. So if there's something that I miss when I'm listing off the things that I've done in my life in a short span, you chime in and let me know. But I'm former Miss Teen USA. I was Miss Teen USA in 2010 when I was 17. It was my first pageant. I then started modeling while I was in college and also simultaneously working towards becoming a television host. And I've been a TV host since I was 19. I'm 33 now, so it's been a minute. I've been doing this for a really long time. But I have been on shows like Catfish on MTV. A lot of people know that. I was co-host of that show for 6 years. And then I was also hosting X on the Beach and Are You the One, all at the same time, which was absolutely insane.
A little busy.
A little crazy. I am realizing, and this is a part of who I am a pile-on type of person. I'm just going to keep piling it on. Right now, I'm planning a wedding, renovating a house that was built 200 years ago. And then also my current condo is falling apart slowly. And so then I'm also doing repairs on that. And my contractor the other day was like, well, it's a good thing you're not piling it on. It's a good thing you're, and I'm like, actually, that's me.
Keeping life simple. I hard relate though. That is very much my vibe. I'm like, it's not enough.
No.
It's not. Let's keep going. Let's put more on the plate.
Let's just do more.
And then I'll have a moment where I have this oh my God, what did I do?
Oh yeah.
And then I sleep, I take a shower.
Oh yeah, that's my go-to.
Take a few deep breaths, have some water, and then I'm fine again. I've reset, we're good to go.
Sometimes you just need to take a walk. You just take a walk, you come right back, everything's fine.
The amount of times I feel in the last 12 months where I've had a moment to my family, my team, my partner, where I've been I can't do that thing that I signed up to do. I'm pulling out, I'm canceling, and I have a complete crash out, hyperventilating, crying, and then 30 minutes later, I'm locked in.
Yes.
I am all right, got it out of my system. I've never been more committed to anything in my life.
Story of my life.
Despite 30 minutes ago, I was going to pull out.
Yeah.
I'm now more committed than ever before, and this is my whole sole focus from now on.
I'm in it. It's so funny because anytime I have a red carpet or something to go to and I'm in the middle of glam, I always, when they hand me the mirror and I look at myself, I'm like, oh my God, this looks amazing. My next statement across the board every single time is always, I can't believe I have to go out and do something right now. The fact that you get ready for 3 hours to go to an event for an hour and a half, maybe, and you have to socialize there. I was like, oh my God, I can't do it. How am I supposed to do it? Crashing out. And then I get there and it's on, ready to go. It's so... I can't be good for my emotional regulatory nervous system, but it's good for business.
It's what the job requires.
Yeah.
It is such a niche specific thing to be able to remove all of your other emotions, everything else that's happening in your life. Because similar to you, I've done a lot of like television hosting through the years. I do a lot of events for my job and I'm on set all the time doing commercial work or what have you. And it doesn't matter how sick I am. It doesn't matter what is happening in my life outside of that, how stressed I am, how overwhelmed I am, if I'm in a fight with somebody. I get on set, I get to that event, whatever it is, and like you just are in this zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that moment, and you do the damn job.
1000%.
And I feel like it's not everybody that can do that. And that's what separates people who do that professionally. It's like actors, right? Like if they're in a movie, it doesn't matter what's happening outside of that film set. When they get on set for that 12-hour day, like they're being paid $1 million to show up and get the job done. They need to be able to remove themselves from the equation and embody that character.
Totally.
And even though for us, like our character is just who we are, it is still like a different energy, a different part of yourself that you tap into to isolate from the rest.
1000%. I filmed, was it Are You the One or X on the Beach? My dog had passed away and I had to go on set and film this like night scene with the cast, and I sobbed the whole day. My eyes were so puffy, I thought I wasn't even going to be able to open them. And I went to the mini bar. I like grabbed the little mini bottles of liquor and just like iced my eyes. And
I thought that story was going somewhere else.
Oh my God, yo, honestly,
God, shit.
I actually didn't take a sip. I didn't take a sip, which is shocking because I now looking back, I probably should have, but it probably would have sent me on a totally different spiral. I did though film an episode of Catfish obscenely hungover one time, and I thought I was genuinely going to die. But you would never know when you watch the episode. I think it was like somebody's birthday, or I don't know if it was my man's birthday. I don't know if it was my birthday because I have filmed on my birthday. And yeah, I would have to like lock in for the scene. And then as soon as those cameras were down, I was with a bottle of Gatorade in a dark room praying to God that if he just delivers me from this one moment, I'll never do it again. And then, of course, I've done it again. And then one time I had to film, I had a sinus infection. I was fully sick, like on medication, like just trying to keep my head up without crying, locked in. You do what you got to do.
I had that exact moment. Like whenever I think about needing to just like isolate from everything else and lock in on set, 10 years ago before like social media became my job, I hosted 2 TV shows. And we would film, so it was like a Monday episode and a Friday episode, but we'd film them both in one day. And I was so unbelievably sick. Like I truly don't know if I've ever been that sick in my life. Do you know that level of sick where your head is so full of fluid?
Oh my God.
You can hardly hear.
Yes.
Because your ears are so clogged.
Yes.
Your nose is just crusty skin. You sound like so hoarse. Like I was so, the eyes are swollen
eyes
shut.
welling
I'm
up.
hardly able to open them.
God.
And I had to film 2 episodes, and God love my old co-host. Adore him. Wonderful person. It was a struggle at times to get through. He was not the best at memorizing a script, and I think he would agree with that. I was very good at memorizing a script. So I would like nail my lines, and then it would all go to hell.
Yeah.
We'd have to redo another take. So I am standing there in like sequin shorts, like tights on, a cute little turtleneck. It was like a Christmas episode. Red lip on, curled hair. And I am just like between every take closing my eyes and like putting my head down on the desk. And then I'm like picking my head up, standing on my spot, like smiling.
I'm sure you did not look like what you were going through.
And I was like,
that's always the number one rule.
Literally, how did I do it? Like between takes, I would just hack a lung up.
Oh, God.
Take a sip, put a lozenge in my mouth, and then just back to it. And like it is like but you know what? Those moments, they prepare you. For every other moment, you have to like
fully
turn another part of your life off. Like it is a good skill to be able to compartmentalize in that way. Like outside of having to do it for your job, the skill of compartmentalizing, I think, is something we all need to pull on in certain moments of life.
Yeah.
And our jobs by necessity force us to develop that muscle, I think, more than the average person would need to. But I'm grateful for it because there's definitely other moments in my life outside of work where I have to be able to be like, put that in a drawer, close it. We can open it later when we're in the bath with a glass of wine. Right now, we're not opening it.
No, we're locked in right now. And it is subjective to, like, what's going on just in general in the world. Like, the world is so chaotic, but if we can just focus in on what is actually important, I think we can make a huge difference. It's when we are literally running around the room like, oh my god, the house is on fire, the house is on fire, everything's crazy, blah, 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 blah. Like, we can't we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel through the chaos if we're just constantly living in this state of fear and panic all the time. I've realized about myself that I am very good at locking in when I need to. My fiance has epilepsy, and he had his first seizure in a while, but his first seizure when I was present, and I realized how great I am under those kinds of chaotic circumstances because everyone around me was freaking out. We were at the gym, and everyone around us was panicking, even the people who worked at the gym. I'm like, "You've never seen a medical emergency? Like, this can't be your first time." But I was so calm. I was so serene. I was like, "Can somebody please grab me this and that? And this is just gonna take a second." And I didn't know how long it was gonna take, but I was just like, "This is gonna pass. But if you could just grab me some cold towels and maybe some water." And everyone's like, "Come on, we gotta call the ambulance, blah, blah, blah." And I was just like, "Everything's okay. He's okay.
And it's
I'm
like, you're
okay."
the one most emotionally affected. None of them even
I
know
was
this man.
shook, 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 shook. It was one of the scariest days in my life. I really can say. And then he had another one. We were in the car, and he was in the passenger seat. He was, buckled in.
Is
This is the
he
same
able to
day.
drive? Because I know
He is,
some people
yeah.
with epilepsy aren't able to.
Yeah, he
Okay.
is. He just had ran out of his medication. Let me tell you something. One day I'm gonna go on Capitol Hill, and I'm going to lobby against the regulations that are on epilepsy medications, seizure medications. It is astonishing how difficult it is to be able to get your medication that you need to live and survive every day.
And it's like that for so many different
Yes.
conditions, like
Yes.
diabetes.
Mhm.
Like it is disgustingly difficult for people to get their insulin
Yep.
to survive. And the amount of people in the blind community who I personally know who went blind from rationing their insulin because
What?
they were unable to get their insulin
And
on
then the
time.
prices on top of that, it just, like,
It's
is
disgusting.
really sick, and it has really just changed my perspective on things because I've been, privileged and blessed enough to never have had, like, any kind of real medical emergency or, anything that's required me to be on regular medication other than, like, birth control, which is also expensive and hard to get. In some places, you can't get it at all. But he has to take this medication every day, twice a day for the rest of his life, and I'll never forget when you came on the podcast and you were talking about how, um, like, this community is the one marginalized community that you can join at any time, and it's disability, and it's crazy to me how that it can happen to anyone, and yet the people who are in power are acting like it will never happen to them or
Mhm.
anyone that is close to them or their families, and even if it is, they can figure it out because they have money and they have the power.
Yes.
It's wild, but all that to say, he had another one after that first one when we were in the car, and, we were driving through the canyon, I'll never forget, and I was panicked, but I'm driving, and so I have to, like, keep my focus and, not freak out because I don't want him to freak out, and he was already feeling bad that, this was even happening, and I had to lock in, I had to get us to, Cedars, I had to get us in there, and that was a whole thing. We spent the whole day at the hospital, um, and yeah, it was a wild time, but I just realized how I'm able to kind of center myself in the situation and lock in and focus when things are going to shit. And then I'm not gonna lie, after that, I had like real PTSD for a minute and like flashbacks and just thinking about that moment. And
And I'm sure every moment, like, you hear him make a noise in
oh yeah,
another room, you're like,
yep,
"Is he having a seizure?" And
yep,
it's well, it sounds first off like you're the perfect partner for him. Like the fact that you are able to stay so centered and grounded in those moments. And it doesn't mean you're not freaking out and that you don't care. It means you're holding it together until he's safe so you can fall apart after.
Exactly.
And like that's the exact type of person somebody dealing with a medical emergency needs. And it sounds like everything in your career and in your life like prepared you for that. That exact being able to like turn on and compartmentalize and get in a zone and separate from emotion is something you're able to tap into in those moments so perfectly. And I cannot say I am the same. I feel like because I can't see when an emergency is happening, nobody's like calmly communicating. Like everybody's freaking out. So then I freak out more because I can't see what level of freak out I should be. So like I remember years ago, my mom, we were in Italy and she tripped crossing the street and fell and smashed her face open. Everybody, like all these people speaking Italian are coming running over. She's bleeding from her face. My dad's calling an ambulance. They're getting ice. And I like covered my ears and closed my eyes. And I was just like, I just can't be here right now. Because I was like, did she lose all her teeth? Is she choked? Like I had no concept of like, how much blood is there? How bad did she smash her face open? An ambulance is coming. It must be pretty damn bad. Does she have a head injury? Like I was over exaggerating in my head how bad it might be because I didn't know how bad it was because I couldn't like visibly check.
And when something's happening, no one's narrating the situation to make it.
Because they're all stepping in as they should to like do something that they need to do. So my brother comes over to me and he's like, Molly, it's fine. Stop. Like, take your hands off your ears. It's fine. She's going to be fine. But that's how I get when it's an emergency is I feel like I can't do all the things I need to be able to do for somebody in an emergency. I can't like do the visual checks that everything's okay. I can't like drive them in a car to get to a hospital. Like I feel like it's one of those moments that I feel so impacted by my disability, by my blindness. Like there's these things that I want to be able to do for my loved ones or frankly, even for a stranger if an emergency occurred. But I also know that realistically, sometimes in that moment, the best thing for me to do is step back to let other people step in and to try to just like stay calm and like do whatever I need to do to deal with my emotions so that the focus can remain on the person who needs it. And then later I can be like, what happened?
No, true.
And I can get my check-in and I can have my freak out.
It's not helpful what I realized in that moment and other moments when like panic has struck. The people, like even when you're watching a movie or like a video of something that's happened, the people who are like screaming in the background, I just try not to be one of those people and I try to focus on like, how can I help? I actually went to a coffee shop not that long ago. And as I'm walking in, I'm witnessing someone on the floor having a seizure and people were screaming. People were panicking. I immediately am like, does she have epilepsy? What medication does she take? Do you know when the last time is that she took her medication? To the people who were with her. And I'm like, this is what we need to do because I now know. And you know what was helpful? When I was dating my fiance, when we were, just fresh off the app, he, was very vulnerable and honest with me and told me about his condition and told me what he has to take. And I asked questions about it. What should I be doing if this happens? And when was the last time this did happen? I didn't know anything about it, but I knew very early on that this man was going to be my husband. So I did all the research possible and then started getting angry about the things that I couldn't find and the things that weren't happening, like the medication thing. It's sick because seizure medication, at least the one that he's on, is classified as the lowest possible category of a controlled substance that you can get because they did trials, I think in like the 70s, where the smallest percentage of people who were surveyed and who were or tested in this trial had hallucinating effects from the medication. I'm sorry. If I'm like a little woozy after I've taken the medication that I need twice a day to save my life, then like I don't know. God forbid. And it's the smallest percentage. It wasn't even everyone who was tested in this trial.
And it's frustrating because it's a very clearly diagnosable condition, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not epilepsy isn't a condition you can fake to
Correct.
get access to the medication.
Exactly.
Like it is, I mean, like theoretically, maybe I could try to manipulate my way into getting an ADHD diagnosis to get access to a Ritalin or an Adderall.
People do that all the time.
People do that. So I understand that there has to be guardrails to how people can get access to that medication because that is not so concretely diagnosable.
Yeah.
It's diagnosed based on symptoms versus based on like a scan that shows you something in the brain is different.
Right.
But epilepsy is like a very clearly, like you do the brain scans, you do you see it. And so there should be no reason.
Yeah, exactly. His neurologist, I mean, like he has a neurologist. He's not going to some woo-woo doctor in LA who also like sells incense. Like this is a real medication they used to take. And unfortunately, it's not until he has like 2 or 3 days worth of pills left that he's allowed to get a refill. It's wild. I am going to be lobbying shortly. So if you're listening and you want to join me in the lobby.
I feel like you are truly the ideal partner for somebody with a disability or chronic illness. Like, I mean, like the way that you talk about like when you met him and you knew he was going to be your husband, you're like, I'm going to take it upon myself to learn everything I can and to now be an advocate.
Yeah.
And like that to me as a disabled woman is like my love language. Like to know that somebody wants to do the effort themselves to learn about a disability or a chronic illness that I'm living with instead of me doing the burden of like all the education. And then for you to care so deeply about the struggle that you want to join my fight, that you want to join my community's advocacy. Like that to me is what every disabled or chronically ill person wants in a partner, is somebody who just like sees them so wholly and is like, I see the way in which this part of your life affects you. And I want to do everything I can to mitigate that and to support you through that and to help make it easier for you and for everybody else living with this. Like that's the dream.
And to cuss out all the people who are making it harder. Because why? Why? It's just, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. But that's my...
Is that your new like soapbox? Like that's your new...
That's my new soapbox. It has been for the past 4 years that I've known this man, but it's just it really is. It's just wild to me. I think about it all the time.
Well, before we go any further forward, I want to go all the way back.
Yeah.
You are one of what, 6 girls?
Yes, eldest. Yeah.
That's
I think that's also where I get it. That's like a part of it too, because I'm always like, I'm standing up for you against anyone. Like if someone's being bullied, I am like the bully's biggest nightmare.
You were the mama bear sister.
Fully.
The protector.
Fully, yes.
We have one thing in common. I think we have a number of things in common. But one major thing we have in common that a lot of people probably wouldn't realize is that I too won a pageant.
Stop.
Yes.
Did you tell me this?
I don't know if we talked about it.
What pageant was this?
I won Miss Teen Canada International 2010.
You 1000% didn't tell me this, but I love that we were both beauty queens at the same time.
And it was my only pageant that I ever did.
What?
And I had no idea that Miss Teen USA was your first pageant.
Yes, in 2010.
So we need to get into this.
No, that's crazy. Was there a talent performing portion of it?
Okay, so look, there's a lot of lore.
No, I was
going to
say
pageant
your lore is
that
very
I did.
deep. And where are these photos and why haven't we seen them?
There is so much lore. I've never talked about the pageant like on social media really. The only place I've talked about it is in my memoir that I released back in October, called Unseen, because it was like, girl, this pageant, we'll get into it maybe like off record. And if you want to know about it, you can read the book because look, I had to have legal approval. I had to have legal read it. Like,
oh my
it's
God.
all messy.
Well, can I just say the pageant world is fucking crazy.
It's crazy. So I really want to get into your experience, because what I will say about my experience doing the pageant is the pageant I did is not like what I see of like American pageantry. Like America does pageantry to a different degree, I feel like, than anyone else. It is so big here, and people like spend, I mean, toddlers and tiaras, people spend their whole childhood, their whole lives
Yeah.
like building up to hopefully winning a national title.
Mm-hmm.
So here you go at 17 doing your first pageant
Waltzing
and winning.
Yeah.
Like that is wild.
Yeah.
And I gave up my title. I won. I got the contract and I was like, I ain't signing that.
No, it's smart.
So off to my runner-up it went.
And how old were you? 16?
15.
15?
Yeah.
And you knew not to sign it?
Well, my dad knew not to sign.
Period.
My dad was a businessman. He read that thing and he was like, girl, absolutely not.
Good.
He was like, look, it's your own life.
Yeah.
I will let you do what you want, but I will educate you on what these clauses mean and like what is happening in here.
Yeah.
And why I don't think it's a good contract. And I will let you like make your own decision. But I've always really trusted my parents.
Yeah.
So I knew that like he wasn't doing this because he didn't want me to get to live out my reign.
Yeah.
He was doing it to protect me. And I don't know, I feel like somewhere deep down inside of me, I was like, I'm gonna be somebody someday. So I need to protect myself now.
And you know what? I love that happened, because I don't know if it was similar for you, but after I won Miss Teen USA, they whisk you off, you do like these photos, whatever. Emotions are high. You're so excited. You've been training for this for, even though it was my first pageant was Miss Maryland Teen USA. I won that. I think there were 63 contestants. I won that one. And then you go on to Miss Teen USA. And I think that was like 6 months later. So I had a couple months to prep for Miss Maryland Teen USA. And then I had like 6 months to prep for Miss Teen USA. You are in such a like crazy whirlwind of an experience. You've been training, you've been working out, you've been doing this, you've been doing that, you've been doing interview coaching, walk-in coaching, prep work for your paperwork, all kinds of things.
All the outfits, the makeup, the jewelry, everything.
And you're exhausted because Miss Teen USA was, I think, 5 days. Every morning we were up at like 6 a.m., fully glam, by the way. So you have to wake up even earlier than that to get ready. In rehearsals all day. Some girls weren't eating, which was sad, but
we had a girl pass out on rehearsal day the day before. She passed out from like exhaustion and dehydration and got taken to the hospital.
Because nobody's feeding you. And if they are feeding you, they're feeding you stuff that like you can't eat. Like they had like a whole, I don't know, like waffle and pancake station, but like at least for me, I was on a very strict regimen leading up to Miss Teen USA, and like if I would have had a pancake with syrup on it, it probably would have made me sick because I wasn't eating that. I'm eating God knows what I was eating.
Healthy, clean,
white egg whites and
–
spinach in the morning and blah 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 blah. Ugh, boring. But that was my life for a while. And then you go through all of this and then you win the pageant, and I blacked out. Like there's an actual video of my crowning moment where I win. I'm like walking the stage, I'm waving, I'm like happy, and then all the girls run to me and my crown gets knocked off my head, and then they pick it up and they put it back on me, and the camera pans to my face, and my face is in like I look like I was like, wait, what? Like, what happened? I'm asking the girls, like, huh? Like, what's going on? And they're like, you won. Like, they literally smacked me on my face to, like, jolt me back into reality because I was so just overwhelmed with emotion. And then they whisk you off into a beautiful suite. Our pageant was in the Bahamas at the Atlantis Resort. So it's like this massive, gorgeous suite. And they put a contract in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And they start flipping the pages and they give you a pen and you start signing. And there is no time, at least for mine. There was no time for anyone, for my dad to, to pick it up and look at it. But even I don't know if he would know exactly what to look for.
But it's like you're 17.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you even legally of age to like sign a legal agreement on your own?
That's a good question. In the Bahamas, probably.
That's actually why they do it in the Bahamas.
Yeah, exactly. Possibly. But my parents were there. But like, this is what we had all been training for. My whole family was involved in this. My mom was traveling with me all over the state of Maryland, which I didn't realize was so damn big. for, months, just like doing all of this um work and charitable alliances
Yeah.
and
Well,
going to all these
especially when you're a
events.
teenager, like you need your
Yeah.
parents involved because it was the same for me. It's like months of fundraising
Mhm.
and
That too.
going to events and speaking and like, kind of rallying
Yeah.
the troops
Yes.
and kind of making it a moment.
Yeah. So when you get that contract, it's like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to sign it. I came to the Bahamas with a bag packed for the pageant, and the other bag that I had, another suitcase that I had, was filled with clothes that I would need for after I won Miss Teen USA. Because in my head, I was like, oh, I'm not leaving here unless I win. If I don't win, I'm staying in the Bahamas. I'm moving here full time. And I had a bag packed to move to New York because that's where Miss Teen USA went after she won. And they were kind of shocked because when they came into my room to pack my stuff, they were like, "Okay, we're gonna have to get a few looks together for your first week in New York." I was like, "Oh, that's that suitcase right over there. I have it already packed to go."
Looks are ready. I manifested this,
Yeah,
packed the
exactly.
suitcase. I was prepped.
Oh, I was ready. I knew that it's what I wanted, so there was no doubt that I was going to sign it. But you do feel that pressure, and it's just like such a whirlwind. It's a crazy moment, and so it's easy for people to get, I would imagine for some like big shows, I don't know this, so this is not, any kind of this is hypothetical, alleged. But if you win show like American Idol or like some big kind of
Reality
competition,
competition.
I would imagine it's probably the same. They get you
Mhm.
while you're excited for record deals and things like that. Like I would assume that it's a little predatory.
I feel like there was a reason why the contract wasn't ready that night, or
Mm,
there was, like, a reason I couldn't sign it that night, but I cannot remember what it was. But
yeah.
I remember the next day at the hotel, they brought it, and then my dad was like, "We're gonna need to take this away." Like, my
Mm,
parents had come to pick me up, and they were like my dad was just like, "No, no, we're not signing this, like, right now. Like,
yeah,
we're gonna need to review this." And I mean, listen, I have no doubt that your contract was all good.
I doubt it.
Because well,
I
like, I
highly
have never
doubt it.
looked at it since. But
Yeah.
for like Miss Teen USA, like that is a very big, legitimate pageant.
Mm.
As I said, mine. Okay,
Remains to be seen.
it's just in the book. You can get into there. So yeah, my contract was all sorts of stuff.
Mhm.
But I'm curious, why did you decide to enter a pageant at 17, 16 years old?
That's a great question. I think about it often. I didn't know anything about pageants. I never watched pageants growing up. I didn't compete in pageants growing up. So like I didn't really know about that world. I had and still have one of my best friends. She's gonna be one of my bridesmaids in my wedding. She competed in Miss Maryland Teen USA the year before me. And she was like very into modeling. And I remember just like rooting for her and cheering her on and everything she did. And one day we were leaving school because we went to high school together, and she was like, "Have you ever thought about doing like a pageant? Like, I think you would really like this kind of world. Like, there's cool people, you'll meet fun people, and like, it's like a fun little thing, like a fun little activity." And I was like, "I'm down for a fun little activity." And I went home and I asked my mom if I could sign up, and she was like, "Why the hell are we doing that?" She was like, What is that?" And my mom is a very strong Aries Jamaican woman. And if we are going to do something, we have to win. Like it doesn't matter if it's tic-tac-toe, if it's Twister, it could be tag you're it. If winning is involved, like she's gonna make sure that like we do everything that we can to make that happen. And so she was like, "Well, like if we do this, like you're gonna have to lock in.
You're
Like
committing.
this is yeah, we're committing because it's money is I think I want to say the entry fee. It had to have been I don't know $2,500 or something like that. Like it
Well,
wasn't
and
cheap
that's
just to enter.
and the dresses, like
Yes.
everything
Mm-hmm.
costs a lot of like those kind of gowns and all of that is not cheap. And
At
as you
all.
said, like all the lessons for the walk and the this and the that, like it's a
Yes.
lot.
It's a lot and it adds up really quickly. So she was just like, if we're gonna do this, you're gonna need to like focus. And that wasn't an issue for me. I was like captain of the cheerleading squad at the time. I had been involved in cheer for many, many years and on top of my, academics. So like I was good with that. Um, but I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But I was excited about the idea of like doing something that felt really cool. And I saw like who some of the alumni girls were who, were moving to LA and New York and working as hosts. And I didn't even want to be a TV host at the time. I was just like, oh, this like looks cool. Like, I don't know, it could be fun. And my mom's like, this is not about fun. This is about winning.
This is about competition.
Yeah. And so that was it. I was just like, I was in it. And then it just like things started falling into place. I started meeting people who became my coaching team and just like opened up this world for me. And what really changed my perspective on pageants and gave me a perspective was I was in Florida with my family. We have had a house in Florida for many, many years. And I needed a prom dress because my boyfriend at the time was having his prom. Then I think I was having homecoming. I don't know. I needed a dress. And I found this dress store, and it also looked like they sold pageant dresses there. Florida's a big pageant state. And so my mom and I go to the store, and we're kind of like sitting, waiting to be helped. And this girl comes out of the dressing room. I mean, you couldn't have told me that this girl wasn't the most beautiful, radiant girl I've ever seen in my life because her energy and her confidence when she came out of this dressing room was just like on another level. She was wearing this beautiful dress with like chiffon, and it was I think it was like a light pink at top, and then it had like a baby pink chiffon at the bottom. And she came out and just was like glowing. And she's just walking around the store like a princess, like literally like a princess. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, and then I found out that she was like my age or like a year older than me. And I was just like, what? Like, I just, I was a teenager in high school. Like, I was like, bopping
We're
around the
all
mall
like
with my friends.
self-conscious at that
Yeah.
age, and yeah.
I had never seen someone radiate such like her aura was just like on a million. And I remember when our sales associate came over to help us, I was like, is she one of those like pageant girls? And he was like, yeah, she's competing for Miss Florida Teen USA in like a couple weeks. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, and I was like, Mom, I think that's like kind of what I'm trying to do. Long story short, I ended up leaving that store with a dress for prom, a dress for homecoming, and a dress for Miss Maryland Teen USA, which I hadn't gotten accepted to yet. I don't even think we had filled out the application yet.
Again, the manifestation
Oh,
is
yeah.
strong.
Yeah. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be in this pageant, and I'm gonna wear this dress." And at the time, I couldn't have said that I was like, "Oh, I'm going to win." My mom probably would have. But, that same day in that same dress store is where I met the coaching team that ended up coaching me for Miss Maryland Teen USA and for Miss Teen USA. PR pageant coaches, shout out to you. We met, we were leaving the store, they were walking in, and she was like, "I'm a coach." And I was like, "Oh my God." And she was like, "Come meet me at the Starbucks at Boca Mall tomorrow." And we did, and she taught me everything I needed to know in like a couple months leading up to the pageant. It was crazy.
When you walked out on stage at your first pageant,
Mhm.
what did that moment feel like?
Shaking in my boots. I was shaking in my boots, and I didn't even have on boots. I had on a sandal nude heel, and I was shaking, but I was so excited, and, like, my whole cheerleading squad came and, like, in uniform with their pom-poms, and so every time I came out, you just heard because like, they were just, like it was everything. It was everything.
That is so
Yeah.
cute. I am
Yeah.
obsessed with that. In your pageant at 17 years old, did you have to do a swimsuit competition?
Yes. Yes.
Girl, having 17-year-olds traipse around in high heels and a bikini on stage.
But you know what's crazy? I didn't think it was crazy. Like, at the time, it was just like, "Oh, this is what it is." Now I see, like, when they made the shift from, having teens in swimsuits to having them in activewear, I I understand now why. I get it. Because even at Miss Teen USA, the age ranges at the time were 14 to 19, which also when you think about just like body image in general, if you had to compare your 14-year-old body next to your 19, almost 20-year-old body, it's not even a comparison.
It's
I
not
knew
even
14-year-olds that were getting nose jobs, that were getting boob jobs. I, as a 17-year-old, was thinking about the fact that I'm going to have to stand next to natural size 0 girls. I've never been a natural size 0. Maybe the day I came out the womb, and even then, probably not. But like the thought of having to compete next to a natural size 0 14-year-old at 17, who like a 17-year-old naturally curvier girl, it that was tough because I had to really, at the time, it was like you have to fit the mold or you might as well just forget about it. 2010s was still like basically 2005.
there had not been any body positivity
No,
movement. There was no body neutrality. None of
no.
that was even on the radar. I feel like that is the dark side of pageantry.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that 14-year-olds are getting plastic surgery,
Yes.
that people are starving themselves, still passing out, like that is very dark. That we were having young girls traipse around in bikinis with high heels on for the
Mm-hmm.
male gaze
Mm-hmm.
to then be like, ooh, that one, I
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
is really gross. Like
Yeah.
even as two people who have done pageants, we can both agree that's very gross.
I just can't believe it was normalized. Like it just I but I didn't think anything of it at the time, and neither did anyone that I was around. So even like now when we're looking back on things like people who are looking back on America's Next Top Model and looking back on certain reality shows, did you watch that documentary?
Oh, yes, girl. Did I watch? Yes, I
I
did.
did. Were you like an America's Next Top Model
I
fan?
was.
Me
I was
too.
obsessed with that show as a young girl.
Yes. And so I didn't think anything was wrong with it at the time. I was
No.
like, yeah, you got 10 frames. You better get it together. Like we've got a show to do. We've got photo shoots to run. And so now, like looking back, my fiance and I watched it together and he never watched America's Next Top Model. So the things that are being said, he's like, what? Like, this is insane. You were watching this? And I'm like, you don't understand.
None of us questioned it. This is the thing, like, I feel like we can't look back at things from 20 years ago and judge ourselves or other people for what was
Mm-hmm.
happening because we all thought it was okay.
Yeah.
The important thing is acknowledging today that that was effed up.
Yeah.
That was wrong.
Yeah.
That should have never happened. Whoa, how the hell did we all have the blinders on?
Mm-hmm.
Now that they've been taken off, let's all learn from it. Let's
Yeah.
all move forward. Let's all never repeat that again.
Exactly.
And, but I feel like truly, like, times were just different.
Mm-hmm.
And like the things that you could joke about as a comedian were like very different. Like the times were just not what they were today. And thankfully, collectively as a society, we've grown, we've learned, we've changed. And now we can all be like, damn,
Yeah.
that was wrong. And everybody involved should have taken full
Mm-hmm.
accountability and responsibility for the role in which that they played in that. But like, I can see why there's these things that we thought in the moment were fine because everybody in that moment thought it was fine.
Everybody thought it was fine, including me. I was like, oh, which bikini am I going to wear? And everything was very much covered up. Like I had a lot of, what do you call it? Like liquid bandage, whatever.
Oh, like the double-sided tape and like
Yes,
sealing
exactly.
everything in.
Exactly. Everything was definitely covered, but at the same time, yeah, looking back, like there was a lot of stress on me as far as having to look a certain way to fit in, and it 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 can't be good. Like now I'm like, no, it can't be good. Like it can't be good for your psyche at 17 to think that. But that was the way, and I understood that, which is also crazy, but I got that that's what I had to do to get to where I wanted to go, and I was willing to do that for that. And thankfully, I have a very body positive, body neutral family. I never watched my mom growing up like picking herself apart in the mirror, and I have a lot of friends who did. Um And I think that that also just, like, changed my perspective. Like, my family's from Jamaica, and, like, having a fuller figure is celebrated. Um, and so I didn't take any unnecessary or life-altering steps to get to the size that I got. And even at my smallest, even though I got down to a size 0, because that's just not how my body is naturally made to look, I still looked 10 times bigger than the girls who, are naturally that size. So, yeah, looking back now, it's kind of crazy, but I can't say that I have any regrets.
I'm curious what role being a Black woman in the pageant cycle played, because I feel like as a disabled woman
Yeah.
doing the pageant, like I was the first disabled woman to win the pageant.
Mhm.
And going into the pageant as a blind woman, there did just feel like a different level of pressure or expectation,
Yeah.
or that I was representing a community as a whole. And that's something I've carried with me through my entire life and my career. And as a Black woman entering the Miss Teen USA universe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think only 3 Black women had previously won before you
You might be right. I
for
was
like
the first, yeah.
decades.
I was the first Black Miss Maryland Teen USA in 10 years and the first Black Miss Teen USA in 10 years. And I was Maryland's first ever Miss Teen USA. But I could not have been more ill prepared for the amount of racism that I would receive. And the crazy thing is, like, I didn't grow up in an environment that was normalized. Like, I'm from Potomac, Maryland. It's right outside of DC. I grew up with friends of all different cultures. It's a predominantly Jewish area, but I grew up with friends who were Persian. I grew up with friends who were Indian, who were Black, who were from the Caribbean, who were from America. And my family, my entire maternal side are all immigrants. Like, everyone is from Jamaica, and my dad's side of the family's from Detroit. And um, I never grew up feeling less than or othered, really, because of my race. Is just like, this is everybody's here, everybody's great. Okay, cool. But then when I competed at Miss Teen USA, there was a thing, and I'm sure there's still, I mean, now there's Reddit, but before Reddit, there was this thing called the Voy boards, VOY. And it was like message boards where people could go on and talk about pageants all day long. And one of the first rules that you would hear when you got into the pageant world is like, don't look at the boards, don't check the boards. Of course, all the girls are checking the boards. At Miss Teen USA, every single morning at breakfast, everyone's checking the boards to see what the boards are saying about, the candid shots that they would post of us throughout the weekend, and who's their front runner, who do you think could take it, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think I ever saw myself as number 1 on anybody's list. There are some people who claim, like, if I run into them now, like, "I've been following you since you were Miss Teen USA, and you were always number 1 on my list," and, like, most of that comes from Black women, so, like, I believe them. And there were only before I competed and won, it was historic that only 2 Black girls would ever compete at Miss USA and Miss Teen USA out of 51 states. So if you were one of the 2, you were lucky enough to even be in the room.
Mhm.
If you made top 15, it was only gonna be one of you to make it. We all knew that. So myself and the other Black girl who competed, who was South Carolina, who's one of my close friends, she's also gonna be at my wedding. We knew that it was gonna be one of us or it was gonna be none of us. Like, it was never gonna be both of us. So I remember one day at lunch, we had, like, both grabbed our plates, and we just made eye contact, and we were just like, "Let's sit together." And we sat together, and we kind of had this, like, we know it's only gonna ooh, sorry, knocked the mic. We know it's only gonna be one of us. So why not just, like, be cool with each other? Why create because it does create this sense of, like, competition just inherently, because if I know it's either gonna be me or you, and I obviously want it to be me, how am I gonna make it so that I'm just as excited if it's you? And we kind of had that mutual understanding that we were excited either one. I think she said something to me along the lines of, like, "It's gonna be you." But I was like, "But if it's you, I'm happy for you." And thankfully, we took it that route, and it ended up being me. She didn't end up placing. She did end up going on later and competing for Miss USA and making top 5 though. Um, which I never went. I was one and done. I was like, this is it. I'm not doing this anymore. But yeah, it definitely was a thing. And then after I won, I was harassed relentlessly by a fellow contestant, actually, which is funny because she ended up winning Miss Congeniality. She was not very congenial. She was crazy, and I
That's
can say
tea.
that. She harassed me and my family for like several months after I won the pageant. She tweeted all the judges because like Twitter was like a new thing, very new in 2010. But she tweeted all the judges and said that I won because of affirmative action, because my first runner-up was white and blonde. And she said all kinds of obscene things, just like would not stop. Messaged me for months and months and months, had her family like trying to call my dad at work. It was very bizarre. Very bizarre. Miss Congeniality. Okay. And so that between that and then after I gave up my title, the death threats, I've heard everything under the sun. And then the year that I gave up my title, it went from 2 girls competing to I think we had 7 or 8 Black girls competing. And that really upset a lot of people because they were like, this Black girl came up in here, turned the party out, and now we have more than 2 Black people competing in this pageant. It was wild, and I ended up on a KKK website. Yeah.
I am so disgusted.
Yeah. And I was 18. Yeah.
I am so heartbroken and disgusted. But sadly, as a minority woman, I'm not surprised. And that upsets me more.
Mm-hmm.
I know the feeling of lucky to be there all too well.
Yeah.
That feeling as minority women in entertainment as an industry as a whole is so prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
But I think across industries, and it's something I talked about so much in my memoir because that feeling has like plagued me. It has been such a difficult thing to navigate, this feeling of society acting like you don't deserve it, you didn't earn it, you're just lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just so lucky that they gave you, a Black woman, you, a
Yeah.
disabled woman, an opportunity.
Yeah. Or you're a charity case.
Mhm.
And like, I mean, apparently I won because of affirmative action. Like, not because I did better than
And
you.
beautiful, talented, worked
Yeah,
your ass off,
exactly.
deserved it, I'm
Exactly.
smart. Like, you check all the boxes,
Yeah.
that's why you won and you did the work to get there.
Mhm.
And the amount of times in my career as a content creator that I have received the comment, especially early on, because I was the first disabled creator to make it like really mainstream in the industry. The amount of times I would receive comments that were like, she's only successful because she's blind.
Because that automatically just like catapults you into success.
I was like, right, because there's so many of us that are disabled and successful.
Everything's so much easier for you.
There's no barriers.
I was thinking that the whole way over here. I was just like, God, Molly has it so. She's
Life has been so
lucky.
easy for
Just
her.
easy breezy. Everything's great. And that's the same thing as being a Black woman. Like, oh, life is just so easy for her. Let's give her a crown. Let's do something we haven't done in a decade. Let's give it. Yeah, sure.
And the amount of
Please.
people early in my career, like high up in the industry, who would say to my management, don't rep her. She's not going anywhere. There's no space in the industry for someone like her.
Seems like there's a lot of space. There's a
We
lot
just
of
got to
space.
make the space.
Yeah.
You were closing the door and not making space. The space is there. You just got to find it.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like so funny when I would see these comments of people being like, oh, you're only successful because you're blind. Because I was like, if only you knew the barriers that I faced to get here as a blind woman.
Yeah. Hello.
The doors that were closed in my face, specifically because I'm a blind woman.
But even beyond like the external obstacles, waking up every day and deciding to do the thing is not easy. And people think that. People think that genuinely, that because you do it so well or so effortlessly, it seems on the surface, and because you seem so happy and like joyful about life, that you have to just have it. It just has to come so naturally to you. Everything's just so easy. No, this is an active effort. Joy is an active effort. And it's actually, I think, the resilience that you need is to just be happy about waking up every day and being able to do something that you love to do. But people mistake that for ease,
Mhm.
and it's not easy.
I'll get comments that are like, "I wish I could just be as positive as you."
Mm.
And I'm like, "Girl, this is a choice."
Yeah.
Just as you said, like, I see the glass, it's half empty in my mind, I
Mhm.
clock it, and I immediately flip that thought around
Mhm.
to see it half full. Like, I will find the good where and whenever possible because I don't want to be miserable.
Yeah.
I don't want that for myself.
Yeah.
So, if I'm living in a world that's full of roadblocks and ableism and discrimination and a world that was not built for somebody like me to succeed, and I'm up against all that every day,
Mhm.
that's obvious. And that's really easy to feel miserable about it.
Yeah.
So I have to be like, okay, I acknowledge that exists. Now, how am I going to, despite all that, move about the world
Yeah.
and live the life that I want and find joy and happiness and success and move forward? And it is that resilience that you tap into, but it is a choice.
Yeah.
You have to make that conscious decision that, like, yes, I see the racism I'm facing as a Black woman in the pageant world,
Mhm.
and I'm going to say, F you. The
Mhm.
best thing I can do is continue to succeed
And you know
and not let
what?
you pull me back.
After that, so after I gave up my title, my mom ended up becoming an executive director. So she was an executive director over the Miss DC USA pageant system and the Miss Connecticut USA pageant system. So she was the one who, after a girl won the pageant for her state, she would create the team of, who's going to help prepare this person for nationals, for Miss Teen USA, for Miss USA. In the, I want to say 5 years that she had the pageant, 7? I don't know. She had back-to-back Black Miss USAs. The first one being the first ever U.S. Army sergeant to win Miss USA, Black woman, Deshauna Barber. Fabulous.
So cool.
And then the second one, who crowned her, Deshauna crowned this one, Kyra, she was the first ever nuclear scientist, Miss USA.
Some people really do have it all.
I mean, honestly, can you imagine?
No.
Can you imagine? And then she had a Black Miss Teen USA, gorgeous Kaylee Garris. She's beautiful. She's a model now, beautiful curly hair. And the flack that my mom got from other directors who were so upset. One, I won't say who, you know who you are, but one verbatim was like, when are we going to have beauty back in pageants?
Because Black isn't beautiful?
Because 2 Black women won back to back. She said, bring beauty back to pageants.
It's extremely rare that I am
Yeah.
left speechless. That is the most, and
Mhm.
and there's people who have the gall to say that like racism doesn't exist
Mhm.
anymore. Like,
Mhm.
what the actual
Oh, yeah, and I think she posted that on Facebook. But she definitely said it,
with her
like,
full chest.
in a director's meeting, and that would happen all the time. They were so stunned because a lot of these states, especially at the time, had never crowned a woman of color, let alone a Black woman. They just didn't. They would go how many decades long without ever having crowned a woman of color, and nobody batted an eye. But then when these Black women start winning back to back, they're like, wait, stop, stop. How is this happening? Why is this happening? Why isn't this happening for us? But it did, you know, get them to start thinking and got them to start crowning some Black women. So my mom's like, I did my job. You have now
Mm.
seen the value in what is out there. And it's not even about skin color. It really is about quality. And so my mom would be in these directors meetings like, okay, well, bring some badder bitches. I don't know what to tell you. Like, bring somebody else.
Step it up. Step
Step
up the
it up.
talent here.
Step it up. Just being stunning is not enough. What's your story? Are you a nuclear scientist? Can you beat that? Are you a
The
U.S.
answer
Army
is no.
sergeant? No? Oh, okay.
Not good enough.
Not good enough.
So for my pageant, 2 of the judges were like celebrities. They flew in from LA.
What?
And one
I'm
of
looking,
them,
by the way, I'm looking up all this footage.
I will give you all the tea.
I need it.
One of the judges is, if you watch reality TV, she would still be like a household reality TV star name. Like, if you're into the reality sphere,
am.
you know this person. And I had somebody come to me after I was crowned who was in the judge room who told me that that woman was the only one who did not want me to win and was putting up a fight because I'm not a pageant girl and I wasn't up to her standards of what a pageant winner should be.
And what pageant has she won? Oh.
So I was like, oh, you're just this like reality star LA plastic woman
Yeah.
who is looking at a 15-year-old girl who, mind you, went blind 1 year prior.
And she's like, no, she doesn't have what it takes.
And she's like, I'm up there with my guide dog in her harness. I have my gown on, my crown. And she's sitting there like, she shouldn't have won. Why shouldn't I have won, ma'am?
Yeah.
Because I fundraised the most for my charity platform. I fundraised the most for the charity that was associated with the pageant. Like, what did I not do good enough in this competition for you?
Exactly. No, okay. First of all, you need to tell me who she is offline. I need to know immediately.
You'll get the tea. You'll get the tea.
I wonder if she's the same person because, well.
Ooh,
Well,
we'll have the off record after the episode.
Exactly. Find it on Patreon.
Girl, you said it, not me. I was literally going to say patreon.com/Molly Burke. You get all the behind the scenes tea. That is where you know what's up.
Screaming.
You know what's up. Thank you.
No, these people are absolutely bonkers insane. I did have a judge, he didn't say it to me, but he said it to another judge who told it to me after I won, that he was really wanting this other girl to win. Blonde, beautiful girl. He thought, I'm assuming he thought she was hot. She was also like 17, so there's that. But he was like obsessed with her the whole time and was like really wanting for her to win. But at the end of the day, the decision has to be unanimous.
Exactly.
So you unanimously won, and so did I. Boom.
Sorry. Sorry.
And you probably have more followers than this reality TV person who said you didn't have what it takes.
She still pops up. So like my mom signed into my Instagram because she works with me.
Yeah.
So she has like my Instagram loaded on her phone, and every now and then this reality star will like pop onto her feed. And like this reality star has daughters. And those daughters were there at the pageant. They were very young at the time. It's now been, over 15 years. So they're now grown. And she's like, I just see photos of her with her daughters, her grown daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't understand how she wouldn't have wanted her young daughters to look up to a pageant winner like you, who had like just faced so much adversity and like pulled their lives back together and like was doing this pageant for so much more purpose and meaning than just like, tell me I'm beautiful.
Right. Because people are, it's really, my mom would say this often and other people too, but pageantry is one of the most beautiful businesses with the world's ugliest people. There are a lot of really scary, dark forces in the pageant world. And when I competed, Donald Trump owned the pageant. So I mean,
we don't need to say anything else.
That is go to Patreon.
We don't need to say anything else. Not
for
here.
legal purposes. Go to the Patreon. But like the people who surround themselves with these industries, it goes back to what we were saying about just like how predatory it can be, because you see young women who, by the way, like there's a lot to say about pageantry, but I know a lot of girls who have been able to go to college because they won a pageant. Miss America is one of the biggest scholarship organizations for women, I think, in the United States, and so, um, I think it can do a lot of good. However, and still, there are a lot of predatory people who see a woman with a dream and a vision, similarly to the modeling industry, similarly to the music industry. Anything where you have people who are hoping and dreaming of a bigger future for themselves, you're gonna have people surrounding it that wanna either tear that down,
Mhm.
stop that from happening, or prey upon you for having a dream and be like, "I can sell you the." It's like a I don't know, I just think of, like, the snake and the apple. It's just very like, "I can give you this amazing future you would never imagine for," and, like, try to sell you this dream, um, that they know that they can't give you. And even still after, winning Miss Teen USA, I had I almost quit. I almost quit. I was a couple months into it and I was like, "I'm not doing this anymore." There were a lot of really terrible people behind the scenes that were making my life miserable, and I just didn't wanna be in it anymore. I was just like, what am I doing this for?" And I had to, like, reframe my thinking and have really deep conversations with my mom, and my mom had to cuss some people out, and she did, and that helped. Um and I had to choose to push forward and, like, just be like, "Okay, why am I doing this? What's my goal?" Um, and then coming out of it, they didn't give me any tools. They didn't tell me what to do. They didn't give me any connections. They didn't, like when I said I wanted to become a TV host, they weren't like, "Oh, well, we'll set you up with these people and these people." No, I had to do all of that on my own. While I was in college, my sophomore year of college, I would be in class. That was when I realized I wanted to be a host. I would be in class with my laptop open, supposed to be paying attention to the lecture, and instead I'm sending out my reel and I'm trying to, clip together clips to be able to send to whatever network executive or agent, whoever could possibly see me and want to sign me. I'm like booking headshot appointments. Like I was very determined to make this happen for myself. And I'm sure that now they use me as like a one of the alumni people that I was looking up to when I
Yep.
first joined, but
They prop you up like they did that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's incorrect, baby. That
You
was all
you
me.
did that
That was all me.
with with so much dark, seedy underbelly to these kinds of industries.
Mhm.
51 girls competing against each other, living together for 5 days leading up to this moment that they've all been working their asses off for.
Yeah.
What was the energy between all of you like? Because I have been a lot of my life at the receiving end of the cattiness of women.
Mm,
What was that competition energy? Was it all like love, hee hee, friendship? Or was there like,
girl, no. Love he friendship. There were a few. There were definitely a few, and I still like love them, follow them to this day. Like very, very sweet girls. Um, but then there were also the other ones who were like it was crazy to me the mind games that they would try to play with you. And it was very, like, undercut, like, it wasn't overt for the most part. It was very, like, strange, just like the line of questioning where you're like, "Oh, you're trying to size me up." But I, being the eldest sister and, like, being on a cheerleading squad and, like, all these things, like, I those things just kinda, like, went over my head because 'cause I'm just like, "You can't possibly." I was also bullied for many, many years as a child. You can't possibly be trying to bully me at my big age of 17. At this point, like, what? And I was so just, like, in a different zone and focus that it just kind of, like, went over my head, but yeah, no, it was I have heard horror stories about behind the scenes at a pageant where, like, the front runner has a white gown and somebody goes with red nail polish and, like, accidentally accidentally trips and spills it, or
absolutely not?
yeah, shoes being clipped, like, I yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, I went to Miss Teen USA with 2 gowns, 2 pairs of shoes. I had 2 of everything. 2 of everything, just in case somebody tried something funny. I had another gown that I also loved just in case somebody did something to my nationals gown. I had another pair of shoes just in case somebody decided to snip the, straps off of the ones that I had, because girls would do that kinda stuff.
You truly did come ready to win, and you were
Mhm.
not gonna let anybody get in the way. You had your suitcase
Nope.
packed. So tell me, you win, you have this moment, you black out, you wake up in the hotel the next morning, and they're like, "We're bringing you to New York." Like, what does that next week, that next year of being Miss Teen USA actually look like?
Wild. It was crazy because I'm in the city, which, like, I have been to New York many times before this, but living there, like, being on my own basically. At the time, though, just, like, by happenstance, my dad had a job that, like, forced my family to relocate to upstate New York, so they weren't that far. They were, like, 1 hour and a half, 2 hours away.
Did they give you, like, an apartment?
So, that was interesting because years prior, Miss Teen USA did live with Miss USA and Miss Universe in an apartment in Manhattan, like, beautiful apartment. Um, and then I think it was the year before me, they decided to stop doing that and put Miss Teen USA in a dorm, for the New York Film Academy. So I was living in a dorm with a girl from Florida that I didn't know.
Not so luxury,
Not so
not so
luxury.
pageant queen.
No, not at all, and she was, like, significantly older than me too. She was, like, in her mid-20s, and I'm living in this apartment or this dorm, not an apartment. It was raggedy. I'm not gonna lie. It was not my vibe.
I'm picturing, like, glamorous,
No,
like, high-rise surrounded by windows
no.
with, like, faux fur, like, I'm picturing beauty.
I think my view was a hospital, like an emergency room hospital, because I remember the ambulances used to be constantly going off. No, and it's you would have full days. Every second of your life was planned for you. Even if I was gonna have a day off, that would be in the schedule. If I was gonna take a nap, that would be in the schedule for a year, which sounds like, "Oh, it's doable," but, like, it was a little crazy. And then, like, say, every day was different, but say I wake up in the morning 8 AM, go to New York Film Academy, have class until God knows when, and I didn't wanna be on TV at the time, I wanted to be a dermatologist, so I really just, like, taking a Shakespeare class, I was just like, "Ah, okay, like, I'm doing this," 'cause it was part of the prize package. So I go do my classes, and then in the afternoon, maybe I have a charity event, maybe it's Boys and Girls Club. I go to the Boys and Girls Club, take some pictures, get ready, blah, 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 leave from there. Maybe I have a gala that night, stop by the office, sign a bunch of autographs, send a lot of autographs to men in prison. No shade
That
to
is
them, but that was weird.
okay, this is going back to the, like, girls in bikinis, like,
That was
I'm
strange.
sorry, that's weird.
That was strange. Yeah, that was yeah, not my
Having a
favorite.
17-year-old sign photos of herself and send them to men in prison
Mhm.
is undeniably disturbing.
It was weird. It was weird. They auctioned off dates with us too. That was weird too.
Why are they allowed to treat women like property? I am
No.
so concerned.
Well, again, check the owner. But yeah, they did that. They did that. That was weird. And then say like, okay, I signed the autographs, whatever. I'm getting ready in the bathroom of the office, which was like not a glamorous bathroom. Um, and then going to Cipriani on Wall Street for a gala, and, like, that would be where I would have dinner, like, regularly. Like, a couple nights a week, I would have dinner at Cipriani Wall Street because it was a gala dinner because they weren't paying for my groceries. So, I was just, like, hanging out.
Do you get paid as Miss Teen USA?
I think that there was a payment for the teens, I wanna say it was $20,000, which sounds like a good amount of money in 2010. However, taxes also,
Living in New York City,
living in New
having
York
no time to
City,
do anything but be a Miss Teen USA.
and I wasn't paying for, my lodging at the dorm, but I was paying for all my food, I was paying for, you have clothes, like, they had a stylist, but, like, you're not gonna wear a gown every day or, like, whatever dresses they have, and then I would have to go get my nails done, I would have to get and now I'm remembering, like, I had to submit all of my receipts, for expenses to get my nails done, but I could only get my nails done in the colors that they said I could get my nails done and the styles that they said that I could use. And I would have to send a picture before I could even get my nails painted. Yeah.
Is being Miss Teen USA like being like Princess Diaries? Like, are you being given a glam team that's glamming you up
No,
every day and
no.
or are you like trudging through the streets to get
Trudging through the
putting
streets.
yourself together?
Trudging through the streets constantly. I think too, like, people now are always telling me, like, "Oh my god, your makeup, I love your makeup," and I appreciate that. I had to learn how to do my makeup because nobody did my makeup at Miss Teen USA or my hair. I did my own hair and makeup. I did my own hair and makeup the whole time I was Miss Maryland Teen USA, the whole time I was Miss Teen USA. Every single event I did my makeup unless we had a photo shoot, like, with a particular photographer, I had to do my own everything. That was the standard, and I got ready in so many cabs, on my way somewhere, in dimly lit bathrooms. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't glamorous at all. I made it look glamorous,
Mhm.
but even looking back on those pictures, like, that was before I don't even think I had concealer. I didn't even know what concealer was, and I don't even think I had, like, liquid foundation. I think I was using, like, a matte, like, Studio Fix
As we
powder.
all were, as we all Girl, do you know what I
Yeah.
did on pageant night? We were all doing our makeup, like, backstage on pageant night,
Yeah.
and I took a MAC Cosmetics limited edition pressed powder with chunky glitter in it and dusted just all over the face.
Stop.
I just was like a disco
Stop.
ball
You're like, "This
all
is
over.
gorgeous."
Glam. I'm 15, I'm blind. It is 2009 because I got like the 2010 title, but the
Yeah.
competition was in like the summer of 2009.
Yeah.
Chunky glitter on the face, and I was like,
I love it.
better work.
I love it. Honestly, at the time, it was everything. Like, I got into my, like, remember when everyone was wearing, like, bubblegum pink lipstick, like Nicki Minaj?
I was just gonna say like the Nicki Minaj
I
MAC collection.
definitely was in my Barb pink lipstick at the time, too, and so there's red carpet pictures of me as Miss Teen USA where I have and no lip liner,
Yep.
just pink, just
Listen,
pink
it was the moment. It
bubble
was the
yum, whatever, candy yum yum all over the lips. It was a moment, but now when I look back at pictures, like, people will see pictures. I had, like, a cameo on Hell's Kitchen one time because they did, like, a Miss Teen USA, collab crossover thing. And people are like, "Oh my god, she looks so different. Like, what did she have done?" I'm like, "I just stopped tanning because that was a big part of it. I was tanning all the time." That goes back to the racism aspect of things. One, I still love a spray tan. I have a spray tan on right now. It's wearing off, but I love a spray tan.
Wait, do you want to know something funny?
What?
I have a spray tan on right now.
See?
This is me spray tanned, Cammy. Is that not the funniest thing you've ever heard in your
But
life?
you still are tan.
When I go get color matched to my spray tan at Sephora for foundation, and I say that this is my fake tan shade, they're like,
Oh.
like they are snickering. They are snickering. They're like, oh, okay, so you're like one up from the lightest shade
Oh
now.
my god, but you're glowing.
Thank
You
you.
have the glow. And that's why I love a spray tan, because it gives you that nice glow. But at the time when I was competing in pageants, I was spray tanning because people on the void boards were saying that I wasn't black enough to be considered a black Miss Teen USA. Because they were like,
Not
"What is
white
she?"
women policing
Yeah.
the color of black woman's skin
Yeah.
for not being enough.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I think it was also there were some black women doing it too. Like, you can't see who's on the void boards, but I remember seeing a comment from someone being like, as a black woman, like, I love when I see those comments on TikTok and stuff, and then the profile picture is like a dog, like, it's not even a person, and it's like, are you
The
really?
Bichon Frise.
Yeah, they're like, as a this person, like, are you with this person, or are you just saying that so you could make your point? But this person, I remember saying, like, as a black woman, she does not represent black women.
I hate that so much because, like, we have the same in the disability world
Mm.
where it's like, oh, so-and-so isn't blind enough or doesn't experience X,
What does
Y,
that
Z. And it's like,
mean?
we're all in this together. Can we stop saying to society to stop comparing us and then internally compare ourselves?
Yeah.
Because we're all out here being like, we're not a monolith. Don't act like we're all the same.
Yeah.
And then internally we're like, but you should be more like me. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, I hate that.
No, it's pretty sick because I think at the end of the day, I'm very much of the camp where I always say that haters are just confused fans. Like, they just don't know. They know that they love you, but they're like, why do I love them? And why don't I love myself as much as I love them? I hate them because I hate myself. And that's what it's giving to me. Like, you couldn't do it. You couldn't put yourself out there to do it. And so you want to
Mhm.
tear somebody else down for like having the gall to be
To try.
themselves, to
Yeah.
try. Like, since when did we start villainizing people for trying to do things despite the things that they, are up against?
Mhm.
It's crazy. But yeah, so when people look back on pictures now, they're like, "Oh my God, like, did she get a nose job? Did she?" I've never had any work done to my face ever, other than baby Botox, and I stand by that. But like, my nose, even thinking about 14-year-olds that were getting these nose jobs, my nose is a completely different nose from when I was 17 to now being a 33-year-old. So thinking about a 14-year-old doing something permanently to their face, and I'm not saying, like, if it's really, keeping you from being able to, like, live your fullest life, then I think people deserve to be able to do the things that they need to do. I don't have an issue with plastic surgery at all. Do your biggest one if you want. But my fear is that we don't allow ourselves to fully grow into our faces and our bodies enough. They change all the time.
The amount that, like, I wanted a boob job in high school,
Mm.
all I freaking wanted, I was like, "When I get older, I'm getting a boob job, like, guaranteed." Now at 32, you could not pay me to get a boob job.
To have
You
more
could be like,
boobs
"We'll give
in the
you a
heat?
free boob job and pay you to get it," and I would be like, "Walk out the door.
Yeah.
Close it behind you, please. No, thank you."
No, thank you.
Like, if I gain an ounce of weight and it goes to my boobs, I'm like, "Get rid of it, get rid of it.
Yes.
I don't want a chest.
That's
Make it
exactly.
smaller." I
Yes.
love not having to wear a bra.
Mhm.
Thank you, God. I love being able to do my cardio
Yeah.
without being, like, weighed down at my chest. Like,
Yes.
I am like, "Thank you, God." And, like, I wanted it so badly. So it's
Yeah.
like the ways that we change, and, like, I have friends who, like, wanted breast reductions, the
Mhm.
opposite, and then grew into and been like, "Girl, look at this. I am so
Yeah.
womanly. I love my curves." And, like, I don't wanna reduce it. And so we change, we grow so much, and, like, if there's one thing I know at 32, it's that I knew nothing at 22, and I thought I knew everything.
Girl knew nothing. I remember when I first got stretch marks, I felt like I was the only person in the world who got stretch marks at my age. I was in, middle school. I think I was in the 8th grade. And they were on my knees, and so I hated wearing my gym shorts because my gym shorts obviously would show my knees, and I had my stretch marks, and I remember a friend of mine in school was like, "What are those lines? Like, what is that?" And I went home and I was like, "I need to get these removed." I told my mom, I was like, "I want these lasered off. No one's ever gonna love me. I'm never gonna wear shorts. I'm never gonna do." I can't tell you the last time I thought about the stretch marks on my whole body ever. Don't care. Irrelevant. Who cares? Who cares?
Literally, who cares?
Who
It
cares?
is so irrelevant to who you
But you
are.
grow into that. And I understand that, like, when you're young, these moments feel like forever and it feels like everything feels so permanent. It is so not. It is so not. There's still so much more life ahead of you to live. Enjoy it. Like, why are we spending all the time that we have picking ourselves apart in the
Mm.
mirror? Let's move on. Let's talk about something more interesting.
The least interesting thing about you is how you look,
Yeah.
but the world makes it feel like it's the most important. And, we both work in the entertainment industry, which
Mhm.
does put, like, these expectations and these pressures on women. We have both done a form of pageant. I laugh to even call what I did a pageant, but
You did,
they
though.
called it one, so I had the crown, so,
You
we'll call it that.
won. Well, not only did you win, you had a hater, and it was a judge. You're a pageant girl.
But
That's if
so
you don't have a hater judge, did you really compete?
exactly. But, like, sitting up here, it's like it's easy to be like, we're both in these, like, industries that put so much pressure on women to be and do and look a
Mhm.
certain way. And simply just living in LA, the fact that I am 32 years old and have had no injectables,
Oh, good
like,
for
the
you.
way people make me feel weird about that, like, the way
Mhm.
people comment on my feed are like, "Girl, you have no upper lip. You really need to get that filled out."
What?
Like, literally shut up.
What?
Who are you?
People are sick, and people need to just do what actually they feel like they need to do for themselves and stop projecting it on everybody else. I First of all, Molly, I know you've never seen my lips. They are big, okay? They're big. They're pretty shapeless. I got teased for my lips all throughout elementary school, middle school. They called me fish lips, and they called me coochie lips, but the real word, well, not even the real word, the real the real other word, the P word
Oh,
for
no.
my lips. And I thought when I grow up, I'm going to get like something done to my lips. Like I'm going to get some type of shape for my lips. It's shocking that I didn't discover lip liner earlier. I love lip liner, but I don't like overdraw my lips into a shape where that it's not naturally. These are my lips.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of comments that I will get from people being like, stop overfilling your lips. What are you doing to your lips? The lip work is getting out of control.
Natural baby.
There's actually nothing I could do about it. There's nothing I could do about it. This is what I have. This is what I was born with. Can't do anything about it. These are my lips. But people are constantly like trying to make you think something about yourself that you don't already feel. If
Mm-hmm.
I come on the internet and I say, hey guys, I'm thinking about getting my lips done. What do you think? You need to be solicited for your opinion. Do you know how many things I come across on the internet where I'm like, I have a strong opinion about this. Do you know what I do with those things?
Keep it to yourself.
Keep it
You
to
tell
myself.
your fiance.
Tell my fiance.
Mm-hmm.
Get a link. Send it to my sisters in the group chat. I have friends. A lot of people on the internet don't have friends. That's what I'm realizing. Because if you did, you would have somebody to send this to and talk to them about it like a normal person. Why are you in our comments?
Why are you up in that business?
Get out.
It is not your business. The way people insert themselves on the internet and things is wild. But I feel like the background of what we've done prior to bringing our lives to the public eye on social media, like prepared us for all of those out-of-pocket comments and like builds that resilience and builds that ability to compartmentalize and all of those life skills that we now tap into every single day to continue to be the badass ladies that we are.
Amen.
And you have had quite the career. After pageantry, obviously, you pivoted. You did build for yourself
a
TV career.
I did.
And I first found you via Catfish, the TV show.
Yeah.
So I want to get into that a little bit.
Yeah. I think I just attract really crazy people and experiences. And I love it.
First off, what episode from that show still sticks with you today?
Oh, God. We've had so many.
Give me top 3.
Oh, well, I always name the one where a woman who, well, there was a guy who at 16 thought he was talking to an 18-year-old girl, but it ended up being a 40-something-year-old woman at the time, and it ended up being the girl in the picture's mom who was using her daughter's pictures and nudes to talk to young guys on the internet.
Using your daughter's nudes and sending them to men on the internet is diabolical.
Correct. I think punishable by a lot of things.
Jail. To jail.
Or worse. But unfortunately, it wasn't a crime where the guy, grew up. And thankfully, it seems like everyone's kind of healed from the situation. But that one was crazy.
How do you trust your mom ever again? As a woman. How do you trust your mom?
Well, she said that they did a lot of therapy. And like, we were obviously hearing it for the first time. So it was very shocking to us. And she was still very emotional about it. But she was just like, I've decided to forgive her. And I said, you're better than me.
Better than me.
Because me and my mother would never speak again. Ew. Anyway.
I don't even, okay, first off, I don't have nudes. I don't take nudes. I'm way too blind for that. But God help me, if I had nudes, the last person I want seeing it is my mom.
No.
Well, maybe my dad. My dad is actually the last person. But like my mom, up there. Like, I do not want my mom seeing my nudes, let alone using them to send to young men on the internet.
Correct. And she was meeting these guys on Xbox, which was even weirder.
The layers.
No, it was a very layered, strange situation. So there's that one. We did another one with a guy who, this girl was looking to meet this guy. This one went kind of viral, but the guy was the guy in the photos, but all of his photos were of him with his mouth closed. And when we met him in person, we realized that he had like some really extensive dental issues. Um, he had, like, something had happened. Somebody had, like, jumped him or something outside of a bar and, like, knocked out
Mm.
majority of his teeth. And so obviously he was very self-conscious about that, but he was like, "I still really love you." And she basically was like, "No." And while I understood where she was coming from, I just had to, like, pull her to the side and be like, "This is still the same person you were talking to. Teeth can be fixed."
Yeah, that's like he didn't catfish,
Yeah.
he just didn't show one aspect of himself.
Yeah. This is a fixable issue.
And, like,
Because she was
perhaps he didn't have the
very
finances at the moment or
exactly, and he didn't. And she was just very, like, just, like, kind of immediately no, but before that, the whole journey, she was very much like, "Nothing could keep me from being with him unless he's not who he is." Well, he was who he was. She just didn't like his teeth. And I understand, like, I'm a reasonable
Yeah.
individual. His teeth were definitely in bad shape. But I said, "The day that he gets these teeth fixed and he posts that picture, don't come running over here like, 'Oh
Knock,
my
knock,
god,
knock.
no, 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 sweetie, you missed your chance.'" And she was like, "No, I know, blah, blah, blah." He ended up getting his teeth fixed. Somebody saw the episode, did all of his veneers for free.
Bless
Yeah,
that person.
yeah, exactly. And I was adamantly, like, on the internet, DMing dentists, some, like, known dentists that didn't respond or, whatever, but sorry. I was, like, rooting for him to get this done because I knew that it did something to his confidence. And now he's got big, shiny, pearly whites. I doubt that they've, reconnected, although I think they did, like, take a picture together years later. I don't know. So that's one. And then we had another one where the catfish just simply did not show up. We did a stakeout outside of a courthouse because she was supposed to go for, like, a probation situation. Um, and we were outside for, like, 5 hours. She never came for probation. She never showed up, period, even though, like, leading up, she was communicating with us. Um, just so happens that, like, her ex-boyfriend had gotten out of jail the day before we arrived after she told us to come. And, this guy seemed like he was pretty bad news, and he was just like, "She's not coming." And so her sister ends up showing up and being like, she is who she says she is. She's just, like, really going through a lot, and this guy is just, like, has complete control over her, and so we didn't end up meeting her. Um, but yeah, it was crazy because as we were digging into her backstory, she had, like, went missing, and she went missing while she was pregnant, and then they found her, but then they didn't find the baby. There's
Oh,
a
Lord.
lot of the thing about Catfish is, like, while it is reality TV, there's a lot of, like, very real things that happen simultaneously that sometimes people never find out about because we can't air it.
Mm,
Um, and it's a lot. It's a lot. It's fun and, like, some episodes are funny and, like, it's entertaining, but a lot of it is, like, very deep
heavy.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of heavy stuff.
Mhm.
We all are skeptical of reality TV.
Yeah.
We all know at this point, stuff be going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
Strings are being pulled.
Yeah.
Not everything is as it seems. How much of Catfish was real? Because when I would watch Catfish, the TV show, and you guys would be doing your little like investigation
Yeah.
and like, ooh, cross referencing images and trying to, I was like, oh, this has already been done behind the scenes
I
and they're like
wish.
recreating it for us.
I wish. No. Every single time we would open up the laptop and read an email, it was our first time reading the email. To find out who we were even dealing with, where they're from, what they do, it was in that moment after opening up the laptop, opening up the email, reading, "Hi, this is so and so." That was our first time being like, "Oh, we're talking to Molly and she lives in California. And she's been talking to this guy and things are going well, but she hasn't seen him, blah, blah, blah." Like that was our first time every single time.
Wow.
And then as we move on throughout the story, production, someone, ooh,
Oh,
hey,
bless you,
Elton John,
Elton. My
bless you.
goodness.
There was always someone on the production side of things who knew where the story was going to end as far as who it was going to end with. Is the person a catfish or is the
Okay.
person who they say they are? But they did not tell us that. It was very much I liken it to like an escape room, where like there's clues given if you request them, but we only requested clues if we were really like, we have been sitting in front of this laptop for 3 hours straight. Our eyes are going cross, like we're losing our minds here. Please give us a clue. And they would be like, okay, check Facebook 2018. And we sift through all the ones from 2018 until we find something. And so
Damn.
that was very much real. And so whenever people would be like, oh, they're scripted, blah, 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 I'm like, if somebody would have handed me a script, then I could have saved like hours of screen time because I didn't have blue light glasses on. I could have saved myself a lot of trouble.
Save the editors
Save the
hours of
editors.
sifting through the footage.
We filmed very much like a documentary. So everything was recorded and we would just get what we could get when, if there was any interference happening from the outside, they would not tell us that. Even at the end, when we would wrap an episode, we would be like begging, like, okay, so that one, like, did you guys ping them or like, was that? And they would tell us, like, no, like, and if they did, maybe they did, but like, that is above us. That's not that we didn't have anything to do with that.
I've had moments early in my career where from the outside, it looked glamorous,
Mm-hmm.
but internally, it was anything but. And
Yeah.
when I watch TV shows, I watch it with the lens of like having been a host, having traveled with the show, all of that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I would watch that and be like, this looks like a nightmare of a show to be on. Like,
Yeah.
from you as a host, like I was like, this looks so miserable.
Yeah.
All the flights, the shitty hotels, like the rural middle of nowhere driving hours.
Mm-hmm.
That did not look fun.
It wasn't glamorous. It definitely wasn't glamorous. It was fun for me because this was my big break and I was 25 when I booked the show. So at that point, I told you I started hosting when I was 19. So it took me 7 years to book a show this massive, or any show really, that was like on television. And so I was excited about everything and traveling to the middle of nowhere. It was crazy. We went to a lot of towns where they have like one high school, one middle school that's also the elementary school, one church, one stoplight, one restaurant. Um and it was crazy. It was crazy. I'm not going to lie. Like a lot of times like we're driving places and it's hours long drives. It was really like touring. Like it
Mhm.
was pretty wild, but I got to go places I never would have gone. I got to meet people that I never would have met otherwise, and that to me was exciting. Like, Lisa Ling is one of my favorite journalists of all time, and she has had a show for years. Well, she had Our America with Lisa Ling and This Is America, I believe, or something about America. They had like a different version, but what I loved about her was that she would go to these places that are like desolate, that like no one would go, and have conversations with real people that you would never meet, and have a certain level of compassion and like wanting to understand um their lifestyle and what brought them to this place. And that is kind of like the approach that I've always wanted to take with my hosting career, even when I'm hosting like a high gloss, high fashion beauty show like Are You the One or X on the Beach. Um, just like coming at things with a certain level of compassion and wanting to know people, I think is important. And so while Catfish, like there was plenty of time we stayed at hotels with bed bugs. We stayed at hotels. Sometimes my hotel room was like, I would open up my window. I'm like, oh, I'm in a gas station. Like there's a gas station outside my window. Is this safe?
Mm.
Doesn't feel like it is. Um, and then also compounding that with being a Black woman and like going to some states and cities where I'm like, the crew is going out tonight. I'm not. I'm gonna be in this room. I stopped going out in certain places. I'm not going out to the bowling alley. God knows who owns it. I'm not. No, I'm already at Target.
Mm.
I'm gonna stay in the bed. I'm gonna order Applebee's or Fridays or whatever, and staying at it, our thing was that we had to stay in a certain like level star hotel, But sometimes the only level star hotel is the Best
one
Western.
star, yes.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's the Red Roof Inn.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's whatever is available. If we were at a Courtyard or a Holiday Inn Express, we were in
luxury.
Oh, girl, if I came into a room and I saw a room service menu, I would be skipping around the room.
You're at the Ritz. You're
I
at
would
the
be
Ritz.
skipping around the room. It doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter what it is. If they have breakfast, yes. The oatmeal that I like is like the little things you start to I'm like steel cut oats. Yes.
Fancy.
Yeah.
I completely relate to it because early in my career, I would tour and I would tour to these very rural, middle of nowhere, small town that I would never go to.
Yeah.
Like a high school of 13 students, like truly like these tiny places.
Mhm.
They would have no access to fresh food. Like the only grocery stores with fresh food would be 3-hour drives away. Like truly like those really like, why else would you ever go there if you
Yeah.
weren't going for work?
Totally.
And I did stay in a hotel that was like book by the hour.
Oh my God. Not by the hour.
Book by the hour.
Oh my
I
God.
stayed at another hotel where it was like there was people shooting up in the hallway.
Mhm.
Like it so when I
Perfect.
would watch that show and see where you guys were sometimes, I was like, girl, Cammy, I
Oh,
feel so hard for you. But you know, when you're young, that's when you do it.
You can do whatever
I
you
was
wanna
like
do.
18, 19, 20, you were 25. Like when
Yeah.
you're young, that is when you go out into those situations and you learn so much and you do meet incredible people.
Yeah.
But definitely it seems like things like X on the Beach are a little more luxurious perhaps,
Oh,
like being on a
yes.
beach.
It's definitely more my speed. I mean, we were filming those two in Gran Canaria, Spain, and it's called X on the Beach, but it was like a 45-minute drive to get to the beach, so it was very like it felt more like desert. It almost looked like we were on another planet. But it like with that, I was filming on an 18-hour time difference because LA Gran Canaria, Spain, it's like off the coast of Morocco. So like time difference was crazy. The hours were wild because like for Are You the One specifically, any kind of nighttime scene, like the actual matchup ceremonies that have to happen when it's pitch black, we couldn't film them until after midnight. So like I'm getting in glam at like 10:30, 11 p.m. And then I'm getting on set at like after midnight, and then I'm wrapping at like 3, 4 a.m., depending on what's going on. So those were crazy and the schedules were nuts, but I loved it. I loved it.
What would you do to get yourself like awake and ready to shoot at from midnight till 5 a.m.?
Red Bull was giving me wings, girl. Red Bull was giving me wings. That was just me and Red Bull against the world. That, and I brought my own matcha packets from Whole Foods, like single serve matcha, because we found a coffee shop that had matcha. But obviously they're not open 24/7, so I would just like have my matchas. I can't lie, like that experience was so great. Like the hotel I stayed at was like so beautiful and like luxurious, and I was speaking Spanish every day, and I was having paella on my
Ugh.
days off, and I was just
Take me there
my God, best
now.
life. Life was so good. Please book me for something like that again. Please. I'm dying for it. Like I need to be back with paella.
I could see you doing Love is Blind.
Oh my God, I would love that. I would love that. That's like my show.
Can we co-host Love is Blind? I feel
I
like
am
Love is Blind
obsessed.
needs a blind host.
Yeah.
I will
Yes.
insert myself for that, and then you can be my co-host with
Yes.
the actual expertise background in dating shows.
How do you feel as a blind person about the term and like the idea of the show Love is Blind?
Do you know what's so funny? When Love is Blind popped onto Netflix in 2020, I clicked on it because I thought it was like Love on the Spectrum, the show about like dating with autism. I was like, Love is Blind. Oh my God, it's a dating show for blind people.
And
like,
then you turned it on, you're like, what the hell
and
is
then I turned it on, I was like, oh, they're cosplaying. They're just playing for 10 days in the pods. They're sitting there for 10 days like, oh my God, what would it be like? And they're like infantilizing the blind experience. Like, wow, you really do fall in love with them for who they are. And then they see them and they're like, yep, just kidding.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because they always end up switching it up at the last minute. They're like, And now it's become a conversation like, is love actually blind?
No, it's not. I am here to tell you, as a real life blind woman, we can be shallow. And you can't say nothing about it because if you're allowed to be shallow,
Yeah.
I'm allowed to be shallow.
Yeah.
I'm just not shallow about the same things that you're shallow about. Like, look, I don't know you. I'm not throwing you under the bus, Cammy.
No,
but like,
please.
say you have preference of skin color or hair color or eye color. I don't care about that stuff. I can't see it. However, I have preference about height. I have preference about build.
Yeah.
I have preference about style.
Yeah.
Like those things I care about. And I am allowed to care about that.
Yes, you are.
You are not allowed to infantilize or like put a blind person on this pedestal and praise us and be like, wow, blind people are like, it's so incredible because they just can't judge people on things like appearance. It's just beautiful. Being blind is not beautiful, okay? It's hard. There are beautiful things about it, but overwhelmingly it is hard.
Yeah.
But we make it work, girl. But I am allowed to be shallow just like you, and I do not accept you being like, oh my God, that's awful. I can't believe you're shallow, even though you can't say, yes, so are you. Get over it.
There's nothing wrong. Like, yes, exactly. And I'm glad that I asked that because I did think about that when the new season came up and I was like, love is blind. And like, even just, we've used terms and phrases throughout this conversation of like having blinders on or like not being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel or whatever. And it's like these things that we just say naturally. But
I still say them. Like, to me, it's language. Like, I'll say I saw this movie on the weekend. And people are like, no, you didn't. And I'm like, yeah, obviously I didn't. But like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I was listening to this movie on the weekend. Like, we already know I'm different. So I don't need to further alienate myself.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to feel uncomfortable around me, like they have to tiptoe with the words that they use. You know, like the way people are afraid to say the word blind around me, like I don't know I'm blind, is hilarious to me. I'm like, girl, it's fine. You're not the one breaking the news to me. It's fine. I've got a guide dog. Trust me, I'm well aware.
You're so...
So for me, like, I love the show Love is Blind.
Yeah.
That is my guilty pleasure reality show. Like, I was never a big reality show girl. I still have never seen an episode of The Bachelor or Bachelorette. But give me some Love is Blind any day. I am sat.
It's so chaotic
because I think it's so funny.
It is funny.
I think it's funny seeing people cosplay blind for 10 days.
Yeah.
And then go back into the real world and be like, whoop.
Actually,
turned out.
I don't like you.
And you know what? Like, the thing is for me, yes, I do think that as a blind person with dating, there are ways in which I am forced to get to know the person before I know anything physical. However, not being able to see like does impact my ability to be attracted to somebody, to feel sexual chemistry, because I'm not looking at them and like getting turned on by what they look like. Like I have to get to know you emotionally before I'm willing to move it to anything physical, because the way in which like it takes me more time to develop that attraction, and I have to be mentally and emotionally attracted to you before anything physical is even in conversation.
Yeah.
But even then, there are certain things like I just prefer a man who's not too tall. I know, controversial, rare. I do.
Wow.
I don't love a suit. Like if you're 6 feet tall, I hate it. I hate it so much.
Is it because you can't like feel like you can't like grab their face and kiss them because they're too tall?
I'm 4'11", girl. Like,
too much.
If you are towering over me like that, I can't see you. Like I only feel your presence.
Yeah.
And that feels very like daunting. It feels like you are overpowering me in a way that like is a dynamic I don't like.
Yeah.
And I know lots of petite women still love tall men. I just ain't one of them.
Well, the tall girls, thank you for
I'm not
your
stealing your man.
sacrifice because it's hard out here to get a tall one. It's very hard out here. You also don't give me 4'11".
I have tall energy, I like
do.
to believe. I have a tall personality.
You do. Wow.
But you know what? If you and me hosted together, Cammy, I would be on an apple box and wearing high heels because my co-host was like 6'3", and they had a custom built apple box, and then I would have to wear high heels on top of the apple box. They'd frame it out. So fun. And I still was like down here, you know?
I'm screaming.
So
I
that
would
would
wear
be
sandals
us.
though, and then I would have the hosting job would be 10 times easier because I wouldn't have to have heels on.
I'd be the one in stilettos. You'd be killing it in flats over there.
I would not mind that job at all.
I don't know. All I'm saying is like Netflix,
I think
Hulu,
we should
we're
host Love is
here.
Blind.
When the contract runs out with Nick and Vanessa, no
Yeah.
shade to them, no shade, no tea, but call
Yeah.
us. We're here.
Please, we're available.
Okay, I think it's time in the show for the awkward question.
Oh, God.
Now, I will say, typically with my guests up until now, I ran the awkward question by them. But I went into this and we started and I
don't wanna
said,
know.
flashback, black and white image to you being like, I don't want to know, just get into it. I'll talk about anything.
I don't.
Girl, Cammy, if you don't want to answer this,
I'm
is
gonna answer
fine.
it.
It'll go on Patreon.
There's not a question I think that I wouldn't answer. I'm trying to think of something I wouldn't answer.
Why do you think Neve did not thank Cammy Crawford in the announcement that the show was over?
So you did find the question that I wouldn't want to answer.
Freaking nailed it. I nailed it.
That is the question. Why do I think?
Yes, why do you think? Not why did he, because you don't know, you're not in his head, but why do you think?
I think, let me put on my pageant hat.
PR answer.
Let me put on my crown before I reply. I think, I think a lot of it's a layered reason. One of which being that when the announcement was made that the show was canceled and when he and Max made that video, we hadn't spoken. Like once I left the show, we haven't spoken since then. More time out than like when I actually made the announcement that I was leaving because I stopped filming in May, and then I made the announcement in October. So it had been a while. And we haven't spoken since. So I think to acknowledge me, I just think that he probably just didn't want to do it. Like, I think he just didn't want to, which kind of is what it is. What's interesting, though, is that everyone expected for him to acknowledge me because I had been on the show for so long.
And
because,
he acknowledged everybody else, including a stick of gum.
And the gum, yeah. The gum was nice. I actually don't remember which kind it was, but I'm glad that they did. I'm glad that it left such an impact. But I didn't expect to be acknowledged at all. If I would have heard my name, I think that would have come as more of a shock based off of experiences that I've had.
I think reading between the lines, obviously, perhaps the relationship was not off camera what it was on camera, which, you did your job well on camera.
I did my job very, very well. And I feel like I should be
Oscar for that.
No. Yes.
Emmy award winning.
Yes, I should. And I can't say that it was like that all the time because it definitely wasn't. But I think that it can be hard for some people to acknowledge people who have made things better for them. And I think that sometimes certain people like to think that they did everything themselves on their own by themselves. And in a lot of cases, that could be true. I have no problem with acknowledging the fact that being a part of this show dramatically changed my life and that I have no regrets about taking on that job and having that role. The only regret that I have is not having kind of advocated for myself sooner and being so happy to have something that, like, in entertainment just in general, you're lucky to have a job. And everything's changing so rapidly. Do you really want to rock the boat? Do you really want to, leave a situation that's good, that's paying, that's like, but there was a lot of stress and anxiety that was brought on by that job that has caused me now irreversible damage to my body that I can't, fix. I have a lot of gut issues now because of anxiety and issues. And so I wish that I would have asked for a break. We also filmed year round, so which no other show does. So that was chaotic as it is. But yeah, I think I just didn't get acknowledged because that was never in the plan.
I think that as much as the show changed your life,
Mhm.
you also changed the show for the better.
Thank
Like,
you.
everybody can acknowledge that the
Yeah.
show got a facelift when Cammy entered the room.
Thank you.
And if that makes other people involved in the show uncomfortable to acknowledge,
Mhm.
that's their problem, because the rest of us who watched it, we're in the know.
Exactly.
And I think that what you're saying goes back to what we were talking about earlier in our discussion, where as a blind woman, as a Black woman, we are so often told we're lucky to be there and we're
Mhm.
lucky for an opportunity.
Yeah.
And as you said, take it a step further, we work in an industry where there is a million girls willing to take your role and shut up
Mhm.
the moment you open your mouth.
Mhm.
And it's so hard to be one of the few minority women let into the room
Yeah.
and to then feel like, oh, I'm seeing all these gaps that I want to fill. I'm seeing all these barriers that I want to remove for future people to
Yeah.
walk through. But also, I got to shut up
Yep.
because I'm lucky to be here and I will be
Yeah.
replaced like that.
No, completely. Completely. And even still, like, obviously, I watch my words. Even though I'm someone who have you seen me watch my words anytime I've spoken in this conversation? No. But I'm still in this industry.
Mhm.
I still have to work in this industry around people who are not good people. Like, there's a lot of people who don't care if you're being mishandled or mistreated, or if the work environment is toxic, or if you feel like you deserve a break after working for God knows how many months straight, after living off of whatever food in whatever place and, fearing for your safety. There's a lot of people who think you should just be happy to be there and you shouldn't complain. Um, and so with that, I feel like you still have to maintain a certain sense of like, I'm still hireable. Like, I'm still like, you don't have to worry about me coming in and like blowing
Yapping,
up the
running my
spot.
mouth.
Like,
Mhm.
that's not my vibe, but I should be able to speak up for myself and do the things that I think are best for me, and leaving the show was what was best for me and still is, and I'm so happy and so much happier than I was towards the end of that chapter because I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy, and I don't just work for my happiness. If
Yeah.
that was the fucking case, then my whole career would be very, very different, but I got to a point where it was like it was so obvious even in my personal life, like, I couldn't separate, and I was so emotionally just, like, dysregulated in the worst way, um, and these also just weren't, like, things that I was making up in my mind. This wasn't just, like, things that I just had so much pressure on me. No, it didn't have anything to do with pressure, had everything to do with environment, and sometimes you have to step away from things and, like, recognize your worth
Mm.
because I think we can all, even if you haven't been in a work situation that made you feel less than, I think we can all relate to like being in relationships with people who have made us feel that way, whether it's a significant other, a parent, a coworker, like someone who makes you feel like you aren't everything that other people think that you are. Um And sometimes you have to take a step back and, like, be like, "No, actually, I'm exactly where I was supposed to be. People do actually care about what it is that I have to say. People do value me. I do enhance every room that I'm in." There's nothing wrong with saying that, and people will think that, like, it makes you conceited or something like that, but I think for people who have never lost that feeling, you don't know what it takes to get it back, like, to get your confidence back, and that's what I had to do, and now I'm back and better than ever.
I completely yes, you are, first off, absolutely, crown.
Thank
Better
you.
crown than the one you wore
Yes,
15 years
amen.
ago. But I completely relate to being in a situation early in my career that I felt at one point was a dream,
Mm,
and it became a nightmare.
mhm.
And it was such a mental trap to feel like, but I loved this.
Yeah.
And this felt like a dream. And where the hell do I go from here? Because this was it. This
Yeah.
was my big break. This was my moment. And now have I peaked? Is it all downhill from here? Am I never going to have this moment again?
Mhm.
And so you are torn between like, do I grin and bear it
Yeah.
and keep killing myself?
Mhm.
Or do I say, I deserve better than this, even if I don't know what that is or where I'm going to go?
Yeah.
I'm going to try to find it. And it's so hard to find that inner strength. So I commend you for doing that, for
Thank
doing
you.
what was right for you, even when it was hard to do it.
Yeah.
And you have continued to do nothing but thrive.
Thank you.
So we started this conversation by asking simply, who is Cammy Crawford?
Yeah.
And I want to end this conversation by asking, what is it really like to be Cammy Crawford?
Oh. Oh my god. No one's ever asked me that before. What is it like to be me? Honestly, I still go back to what I said in the beginning. I feel like I wear a lot of hats, and my favorite one is, at least so far, is being a big sister and having these 5 beautiful young women who look up to me every single day, and so I do every day wake up with this sense of, like, having to achieve because they have to see me do it. Like, they have to see me do it. Not that they're not doing it in their own right, but, like, I've always had this, um, kind of thing bestowed upon me by my parents of, like, "Your sisters are looking up to you. You have to, do the right thing. Be the person that they can look up to." And so, I think to be me is to be a big sister, to be a friend, to be a fiance, um, and to just be somebody who is compassionate and kind and cares about marginalized people and people who are hurting and people who are suffering. And as a water sign, as a Scorpio, I feel a lot of those things every single day. I'm constantly like, "Oh my gosh, like how do I save the world by tomorrow?" And while it's impossible, like, it's still a thought in my mind of, like, how can I be doing something on a micro level to make somebody's day better that I might come across? My mom would always say, like, "You never know who needs to see your smile." Although smiling at men on the street is, like, not something that I'm trying to do, but,
Risky.
like, very, very risky, but, like, I like to say, like, a compliment is no good if you keep it to yourself. So, like, if you see somebody out in the street, give them a compliment, give them a
If you think a
smile.
nice thing, say the nice
Say
thing.
the nice thing. Like,
We
we've
all like
gotten
to
so
hear it.
far from that. So, like, to be me is to be that person. I'm always hyping people up. If you post something, especially if it's sponsored content, and I stress this all the time, I'm gonna be in those comments. I'm gonna be liking. I'm gonna be like, I can't wait to go out and buy that right now because I want to see everybody get to a bag. Like, I want to see everybody win. Every kind person that there is winning. Um, and then also to be me is to be like very introspective. I'm constantly thinking about, like, what is next? Um, and that has been, like, a good thing and a bad thing throughout my life because I've, like, foregone some memories of certain things because 'cause I've always been thinking about the next thing, um, and plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But still, at the same time, it makes it so that, like, I'm on top of things in the best way that I can be. I'm also, like, my own biggest critic, but I'm also, like, one of my own biggest fans, and never in a pompous type of way, but just, like, again, if you don't know what it's like to be bullied or to be marginalized or to be kept down or to be told that you should be less than, and you have listened to it and then you've gotten out of it, you don't know what it's like to get out of it and to, like, get back. So once you hold on to it, you're not gonna let that go. Like, I'm not letting go of my joy and my pride in myself and the way that I carry myself and to who I am as a person, so that anybody who has anything negative to say about me, I'm like, "You have no idea. You don't know me. I'm not here to bother anybody. I'm not here to hurt anybody." Like, I would never purposefully do that. So, um, I'm a very thoughtful person. Um, And yeah, to be me is to think about where I'm going, what I want to do next. Sometimes, yeah, I do beat myself up, especially if I'm in my luteal phase. I'm like, what are you doing? Do you have a career? Does anybody like you?
Don't get me started
No.
on the luteal phase. My God.
For the like my luteal phase, it feels like it's like 10 days long. And for 10 days, I'm like,
Your own worst enemy.
who cares about you? Who cares about you?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody. Nobody cares. And then my period comes and I'm like, oh.
I'm the baddest. I am that girl.
I'm like, oh, everybody cares about me. Everything's fine. Nothing's wrong. Everybody's happy. Everything's joyful, joyful. So it definitely like it's a layered experience. I'm a layered person. Thank you. Thank you. Oh,
Elton says, me
Elton John
too.
said I'm layered too, and he likes me. And
He
you know what?
does.
If animals run away from you, that's how you know you're
Red
not a good
flag.
person.
Red
When
freaking
animals run
flag.
to you, you know you're a good person. So thank you for acknowledging and affirming me as a good person.
But you know what? I love what you say about like you need to be your own biggest fan when you've been bullied because I
Yeah.
feel that so much. Like the only way to not hate myself is to love myself.
Yes.
And I had so many people in my life at one point hating me and being negative towards me that I was like, the only way to not absorb that is
Yeah.
to rise above it and be like, I don't even hear that because I'm here accepting and loving who I am.
Yeah.
So, like, you can't pull me down with your negativity because I'm up here with my love.
Exactly.
And love will always be higher than negativity.
I 1000% agree. All the time. All the time. And it's funny because when you do rise above it and you get out of it, people are like, well, they're shocked by it. Like now it can't be real. Like you can't possibly be this joyful all the time. You can't possibly be this confident all the time. No, not all the time. But when I have the opportunity to, I'm going to pat myself on the back. I always say like we talk to ourselves more than anybody throughout an entire day.
My brain is yapping 24/7. She's never shutting up.
Constantly. Some days I'm like, girl, not right now. Not today. Can you just give us a break? Maybe tomorrow we could talk about this.
I'm trying to rest. I'm trying
Do
to
we have to
rest.
rehash all of this? It's 2 a.m. But if you're gonna say stuff to yourself all day, why not like sprinkle in a little positivity? Why not sprinkle in something kind? The same compliments you're handing out to strangers. Why not just like give yourself one? Who cares? It doesn't make you a conceited person or, whatever to think highly of yourself. I think highly of myself. So to be me is to be someone who is confident. Not all the time, not every day, not in my luteal phase, but I'm very confident, not just in how I look, but who I am. And that's enough for me.
You know what? I think the least confident part of me is in how I look because I can't see myself, and that's
Mm,
hard. But the most confident I am is in who I am.
yeah,
I know who I am, and I am confident in that person because I've worked on that person enough to be like, I know that I have spent so much time on myself
yeah,
that I am a good person and I can stand by that. And I think if you've got to love one part of yourself, if it's your insides, you're in a really good spot.
it better be your
So
soul. It
better be who you are on the
Yeah,
inside because
exactly.
the outside is just the chamber our soul is stuck in,
Mhm.
and like this body will change, it will morph into new things, but who we are, let it always be good, let it always be moving in a positive direction.
Yeah.
While everything else be sagging,
Yeah.
let the soul be lifting.
Correct. The soul is always your titties might sag, but your soul and your spirit
Flying.
flying high.
Where can we find all of your sunshine? Where can everybody keep up with you? Because truly, every time you pop on my feed, I'm like, a little ray of sunshine just entered my day.
Oh my
Where can people keep up
God.
with this energy?
Oh, thank you. I love that. Because I actually don't see myself as a ray of sunshine. I think of like a sunset. Like it's the sun is out, but like there's some dark moody parts in there.
But it's
Scorpio.
that dynamic,
Yeah.
that duality and that honesty and raw realness,
Yeah.
that is what's sunshine to me because I
Oh,
see you. Like you are being so you. You're not putting on an
you.
act. And that is what
No.
I like connect with.
Same. Likewise, girl. I'm on social media everywhere at Cammy Crawford, Kamie. And then my podcast, Relationship, airs every single Friday. Molly's been on. We had an amazing episode and conversation. I can't thank you enough for doing that for
Oh,
me.
stop it.
No,
That
I'm
was years ago.
serious.
This is my time to thank you. Thank you. This was such an incredible conversation. I feel like this after every episode. Like, I could have just talked to you for hours and hours and hours, and we've already yapped too long. So,
did we? Was it too long?
Listen, the viewers will probably think so. I do not, because I would keep it going. But I'm like, I know the attention span of today's economy is short.
We're asking for a lot.
We're asking for a lot here. So I appreciate you. If you're on YouTube, all of Cammie's links will be in the description box. If you are on YouTube, please make sure to go follow the show over on Spotify. It really helps me out. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much, Cammie. And now you know what it's really like.